rotate your phone.
You're on live.
Live.
We're almost there. I think we have like 2 more minutes. Just 2 more minutes. But we're just so excited to talk about sevens.
We are. The sevens couldn't wait.
We're hoping a couple of our favorite sevens will join us.
How fun would that
be? The best.
They'll be late and they'll leave early, but here we go.
Oh, no.
Only kidding.
Hey, so just even as we're getting ready, I want to tell you this is the last of our introductions to the types. And beginning next Monday, August the 26th, 8 a.m. live, we're going to have Live with Harmony at 8 a.m. So now we're going to really start to introduce the concept of our book that makes it very different than just giving the Enneagram style, but how the work of harmony will serve every person. So with harmony, what you want to know is that with the regular process Enneagram or this, the wings and arrows model, you end up with 5s and 7s as 2-headed and no-hearted, and the 2s and 4s as 2-hearted and no-headed. And so the work of harmony is really powerful for people on a transforming journey. And we're going to begin to unpack that August the 26th, 8 a.m., Harmony at 8. And Doug and Adele are going to kick that off with the 8-2-5 Harmony. So we sure hope that you're going to be able to be here for that. The other thing that we want to say is that all of these videos will remain on our Facebook page. So you can always go back and watch them if you missed the time and you can't be with us. It's no problem at all. And so we hope that you'll join us.
Yeah, definitely. We're looking forward to that next piece. And
so you want to kick off the 7?
I think we should do that.
Let's do it.
Yeah. I think a great place to kick off the 7 is that scripture in Nehemiah. Nehemiah 8:10, which says, "Go and enjoy choice food, sweet drinks, and send some to those who have nothing prepared. This day is sacred to the Lord. Do not grieve, for the joy of the Lord is your strength." Nehemiah 8:10.
So great.
Yeah.
So in their true self, 7 show us that God is joy. And joy is not just about happiness, but it's what is underneath happiness. Joy that is given because God is joy.
Yeah, this deeply abiding joy. 7s in their true self are optimistic. They're enthusiastic.
Accentuate the positive.
Exactly.
Eliminate the negative. Latch onto the affirmative. And don't mess with Mr. In Between.
Yes. And they're spontaneous. They're great people to have at a party. They're generous and curious. They're usually multi-talented because they just want to experience different things. They uplift and enliven others. They bring holy joy.
Yeah, and when they're healthy, they are these kind of visionary pioneers. And when they are actually giving themselves to worthy goals and worthy ideas, they discover that joy includes even living in the mundane and even the painful. So healthy 7s really do show us that God is joy. I love that, when we think about 7s, a lot of people think that they're really heart-centered. They look like they're heart-forward. But no, they are in the head type. These are not the feeling types. They are the most energetic, but it really is around ideas and futuring and vision and pleasures, and they're great epicures and beautiful head types that actually plan for the best kinds of experiences. Their imagination is vivid, and what may look like that they're hyperactive really is that they do have a very active imagination, and they do want contingency planning to make sure that their freedom is secure. So 7s, the core motivation is security and survival, and what they want to survive is their freedom. Yeah. And so if they're here and they realize that over there will be more freedom, they may start to think about that.
Yeah, they're not the biggest fans of long, drawn-out meetings.
No.
If you have a 7 on your team or a part of your business or your organization, and you have long, drawn-out meetings, you need to try to break them up a little bit, spice it up a little bit so that they can bring their best self. They're not fans.
Break for fun.
Yeah.
Now, in their false self, they can be self-indulgent and insensitive and hyperactive and undisciplined and problems with completion. And so what we realize is that, in their true self, they show us the face of God. And in their false self, they show us how they've tried to survive in this world. Had a pastor friend that we were working with that lost his child at a very young age, and he was looking for some spiritual support, and he ran into a 7 pastor who was not super healthy, that actually gave him the scripture that we just referred to in Nehemiah 8 and said, the joy of the Lord is your strength. You got to knock off this mourning. You have a spirit of mourning. And I remember that pastor calling us and just saying, do I have a spirit of mourning? And we said, well, here's what we see. You have something to mourn, and you miss your son. And, mourning is a part of coming back to joy. And so if you are not able to mourn to the full, you won't be able to experience joy to the full. And what we know is that grief and gratitude can live under the same roof, that joy and sorrow are a part of the human experience, and that healthy 7s are able to integrate all of these things.
Yeah, that story about our pastor friend reminds me of a scripture passage in Mark 8 where Jesus is sitting down with some of his disciples, and he begins to say that, that the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the lawmakers are going to come against him, that they're ultimately going to end his life, that in 3 days he was going to die and then resurrect in 3 days. And the disciples and others are listening to this story, and Peter responds out of a very clear, unhealthy 7 energy and pulls Jesus aside literally and says, this dying and needing to raise from the dead in a few days, this just doesn't work with the plan. Peter was thinking, we don't need any death and mourning. What we need is victory and celebration and you becoming the king without any of that. So, of course, Jesus, in one of the clear rebuke passages of Scripture, just tells Peter, you just don't get what this is all about. So it's just that not really having a hard time sitting with the difficult and trying to just somehow divert it and avoid the difficulty and being with it. So
yeah, it was interesting. Last night I had my sister called me and told me to turn on Anderson Cooper and Stephen Colbert as they were talking about grief and loss. So if you have a chance to take a look at that, I think it's on YouTube now, but it was beautiful. The tenderness of it, the willingness to be with both gratitude and grief. Stephen Colbert did a beautiful job with that. Another situation that this reminds me of when I think about 7s who are able to grieve and to experience joy to the full is when we realize our work is not just to tell people to get over it. And that 7s actually really need someone to help them stay with it, to stay in it. And that real joy does come from the full range of human emotions. And so true joy is joy that drops underneath what is happening. And so when 7s are really healthy, they're able to actually experience more than just what is a caricature of the 7, that they're all always up and to the right, and well, they're not. In fact, so if the false self or the vice is gluttony for this joyous Epicurean 7, then sobriety is the redemptive virtue back to health. And that means sobering up from anything that's keeping you distracted, anything that's keeping you from being in the present moment. I think about the line from the Dalai Lama, some people say he's a 7. He said, when were you happiest? And he says, I think now. And there's something so qualitative about someone who can be in the present moment, and no matter what it is, that there can be this abiding joy.
Right, right. So a good encouragement for a 7 is to help them, or if you're a 7, just to try to be with whatever season that you're in, to be present to that. Thinking at different scripture passages, again, I think of in Ecclesiastes where there is, to everything there is a time and a season, to even meditate on scriptures like that, because that portion of scripture goes through kind of a litany of different things, from the highest of celebrations to the hardest moments of life, to mourning and death, and to just kind of be with that and to consider that there is treasure in all of those places of our lives that can be mine, whether we're being spontaneous and celebrating and kind of throwing a party, which is so important for all of us, or we're in the places of life that are dry and difficult, and what's the treasure in the midst of darkness? Right?
And even Jesus saying, for the joy set before him, he endured the cross, despising the shame, but knowing that there was a crown laid up for him.
Yeah.
And so if Jesus is the author and the finisher of our faith, then Jesus is teaching us about the joy set before us, even if there is a cross on the way there. So really happy to present 7s, both in the true self and the false self, that can be open to the healing work of God. And we just want to remind you that we're going to just be doing some posts in these next few days. We'd love to have some interaction from you, questions that you might have. And also to say that next Monday, August 26th, we're going to begin to unpack the big, hairy, audacious idea of this book, which is harmony.
Cool.
So you might notice with our book that every type has 3 words as the chapter title, and that's because we believe you are more than your type. And so we're going to start to unpack that idea of harmony. It's going to be called Harmony at 8. And so at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, we'll be meeting with you to do 5 to 7 minutes. It's going to be short, so maybe just enough time for you to get a cup of coffee. But from 8 o'clock for 5 to 7 minutes, we're going to do harmony at 8.
Cool.
And this is I think what I've been waiting for, is to get you all into our harmony idea, because lots of people are teaching on the Enneagram, and our great joy is to bring you the harmony triad theory. And so
Yeah. Hey, I've got a good song for us to go out on the 7 with.
Yeah.
A great 7 song, I think. It's a Willie Nelson special. On the road again. I just can't wait to get on the road again. The life I love is making music with my friends.
No, I can't wait to get on the road again.
On the road again.
Yeah, he'll
All right.
keep singing.
See
Keep going,
you,
Scott.
sevens,
Go
and everybody
ahead.
else later. Go ahead.